Welcome to the Mojo for Musicians podcast from Manny Cabo Media, where we dig deep into today's top strategies to help you take your music career to the next level with real, raw, and uplifting conversations with industry professionals that are making moves, making a difference, and making the best versions of themselves to inspire you to do the same. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Manny Cabo, and welcome to another episode of Mojo for Musicians. All right, welcome back, Mojo for Musicians family. And man, am I thrilled to be here once again. That's right, yours truly, your host, Manny Cabo, ready to dive into yet another fun-filled episode of empowerment and inspiration, and of course, some serious mojo. But before we kick things off, I got to express my deepest gratitude to all of you amazing listeners out there. Thank you. Seriously, guys, your support, your enthusiasm, your dedication to spreading the word about my mission means the world to me. So please keep rocking those streams and sharing the message because you guys are the heartbeat of the show. Now, let's talk about today's episode. Brace yourselves, people, because we've got a powerhouse in the midst. And I got to say, I'm not just excited. I'm buzzing with anticipation. Why, you ask? Well, let me tell you, because we're about to hear from someone who's not just conquered one arena, but several. Now, imagine this. Entrepreneur extraordinaire, legal eagle, equestrian champion, and a speaker who can captivate any audience with her words. Yes, folks, that's right. She's the embodiment of success and what I believe, in my opinion, is an elite performer. And I truly have been fortunate enough to share the stage with her. And let me tell you, it's an experience that stays with you. But today, we get to peel back those layers, if you will, and dive deep into her journey, her insights, and the wisdom that she's gathered along the way. So without further delay, let's give a massive welcome and the warmest virtual hug to the one and only my dear friend, Sandy Gallagher. What's up, Sandy? And welcome to Mojo for Musicians.
Hey, Manny. It's so good to be here. I was thinking about it. One of the best things that's happened in my life in the last year is meeting you.
Wow.
And having you on that cruise.
Wow, talk about humbling.
Seriously.
And guys, I just want to confirm that I did not pay her to say that. Seriously. But all kidding aside, that's extremely humbling, especially coming from you, Sandy. Listen, it was such a privilege to not only be able to talk to you, because it was essentially the first time that I ever had some heartfelt dialogue with you. And in chatting with you, as luck would have it, sitting in that little corner while we were waiting to, take the stage, I got to see and hear a side of Sandy that many people don't get to see. So for that, I'm beyond grateful. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, this woman has her shit together. She has her own brand. She has this incredible voice, this incredible story of a journey that she's had. And I can't wait to share that with today's listeners. So seriously, Sandy, the honor is all mine. And I know I took the scenic route to explain that, but I think that you understand exactly my point, that the relationships are key. And you are one of those people that I am beyond grateful to have met. It's such an opportune time and during such an incredible event as we did in the cruise.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Absolutely.
All right. Awesome. So let's dive right into this. Let's talk about the storytelling because, hey, that's the impetus of why I have you on here right now, because you've built a remarkable career. So listen, no need to be humble. I've done my research and recon on you. But yeah, a remarkable career spanning from the legal realm, closing billions of dollars in deals, to coaching and equestrian competitions, which I alluded to before. And of course, now a renowned master storyteller. And I share your passion for storytelling, and I appreciate its power, especially as a singer-songwriter, because it's always about the story and the lyrical content and how you tell that story. And even when I'm wearing my professional editorial photographer hat, it's telling a visual story when I'm helping artists with their branding, just like I'll be helping you in Kentucky pretty soon.
Can't wait.
I can't wait for that. So I get it. And now my question to you is, how has storytelling influenced your career and life. And can you share with me and my listeners how you use storytelling in your teachings?
Well, it's interesting with storytelling. Way before I met Bob Proctor, when I was a corporate attorney, I worked on Wall Street. Like you said, I did over $100 billion in deals. I did it for many years. And in the midst of that career, I came across Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. Have you ever read it?
Oh, man, of course. It's that orange book right there.
Didn't it set you on fire?
Oh, 100%. It was epic.
It was this story that had the power to tap into your imagination and cause you to literally move into another realm, into another level of conscious awareness. And so then fast forward, I'd been an attorney for almost 2 decades by the time I met Bob Proctor. No idea who he was, but a friend had invited me to a seminar, and it ended up being a Bob Proctor seminar. It was actually called The Science of Getting Rich, which if I had known the name of it beforehand, I wouldn't have gone. Because I would have thought, I did financial law, so I would have thought The Science of Getting Rich, woohoo, I'm not going to go. But I went, and I was so fascinated because he told stories. And we had this group of 1,000 people in a room for 2.5 days, and he's got them sitting on the edge of their seat because of the power of telling stories. And I thought, man, I want to do that. Something inside me just lit up, and I thought, I want to do that. And so I eventually got the opportunity to work with Bob and become partners with Bob and to teach with Bob. And stories are the main part of how I teach. And so what I do, Manny, is I learn and then I apply it. And then I teach it. Learn, apply, teach. Learn, apply, teach. Right. I'm not going to teach something that's just theoretical. I'm not going to take something out of a book and teach it. It's not interesting to me. But when I take it to really stretch myself, it becomes super interesting. And then you get to share that story and see people light up with an aha because they can relate.
I know, right? Those light bulb moments are just priceless. And I have to concur, because for me, they're not just narratives, right? They're vessels of emotion and experience and connection. Through these stories, I try to weave a tapestry, if you will, that binds me to my audience and vice versa. And it's how I communicate those deepest truths, that evoke empathy and keep my audiences in engagement status, right? Alive.
Well, like on the cruise, you were up there in front of the group every single day. You told us stories, you shared things that you've learned, and you sang incredibly beautifully. You still owe me that one recording, by the way.
But damn it, you remembered that.
Yes, I do. But you're a master storyteller, and the reason stories are so powerful, it's when they're based in truth. They have to be based in truth. Yeah. And then people can feel that, what I call integrity, where your thoughts, your feelings, your actions are all in harmony, and that's the power of a story.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. Essentially, it's the heartbeat of my craft. Storytelling has always felt that way. And you and I both come from this school of understanding energy, right? Especially with our affinity with Bob and what he stood for. And for me, these stories have a frequency of shared experiences and emotions. And these frequencies can either bind us or conversely separate us. So it's pretty powerful, as you already know. And I'm truly fascinated about your leap into publishing with Gallagher Publishers and working with other people's stories. Seriously, it's no surprise. You would think that anyway, especially after I got to know you. So what ignited this move? And more importantly, what is the future of Gallagher Publishers?
Well, it's interesting because I started out writing a series of books. I've got 11 books in the works
Of
right
course
now.
you do. Of course you
And
do.
they're all coming out. In fact, I've got some manuscripts that I need to be reading after we get off our podcast. But this is one of three
Beautiful.
in a series of horse books
Wow.
because I'm a horse lover, total horse lover.
Wow.
And then I've got a series of unstuck books on how I magically got unstuck in 30 days with Bob Proctor. We've got 3 of those books and a journal that goes with it. And I've got a book on Would I Like Me If I Met Me? That's in the works.
I love that. And you know what? You
Yeah.
mentioned that in passing on the cruise, and I'm like, oh, that's genius, man, because that's a great question that we should be asking ourselves. But go ahead.
It's a powerful question. Seriously, and I do a lot of teaching on gratitude because it's such a powerful, powerful thing. And the first thing I have everyone think about is, would I like me if I met me? And I say to them, now, if the answer is no, don't worry about it. The first one you want to be grateful for is yourself. And part of the gratitude exercise is to forgive those that are bothering you.
Yeah.
And if you're not feeling good about yourself, forgive yourself, send yourself love. We are beautiful human beings. We have infinite power. And when we tap into gratitude and we understand that everything just is, it's neither good nor bad.
Right.
It's not like I remember I would say to Bob sometimes, oh, that's just one of my flaws. He's like, what are you talking about flaws? We don't have flaws, and
Sounds like him.
Quit thinking that. Yeah. Quit thinking along that way. And so, yeah, it's just, I love, where I see Gallagher Publishers is, of course, it's going to be a lofty goal, Manny, because that's just the way I work.
But those are the most rewarding, though, of course.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. And why are they the most rewarding? They're the most rewarding because when you come up with a goal, you have no idea how you're going to achieve it. Yeah. But then you fall in love with it, and then you're going to overcome the obstacles, which are going to cause you to stretch and really start to see a part of yourself you never saw before. Yeah. That's what I've done over and over and over in my life. And that's what I plan to do with Gallagher Publishing. And awesome. The goal is to be in the top 6 publishers in the world.
Well, you certainly are no stranger to achieving goals, so I don't see that being a problem at all, or a far-fetched goal for that matter. But quite frankly, I think it'll definitely happen. You got a lot of support, Sandy. And I think that in addition to that, you talking about gratitude, that was one of the things that was a tough lesson for me as well, because after Hurricane Ida wiped out my entire livelihood of over $90,000 in podcast, music, recording, and photography equipment, and then life kicks me while I'm down, mind you, and I lose my dad to COVID, believe me when I tell you that embracing gratitude during that time of so much loss and hardship was a definite tough pill to swallow. But at the same time, and to your point, actually, that was the moment where I was like, wait a minute, 4 people down the road perished. And more importantly, my family and I are still here. I'm still here. I could still keep moving on and pressing on. And we're still alive. So I get it. My dad was the one who inspired me to be a creative, right? And he's no longer here with me. But he would have wanted me to succeed and continue with my life pursuits. And that's my words for you, Sandy. Bob's no longer here, but the legacy that he instilled in you and myself and everyone who understood his teachings and messages, that's what he wants us to continue. But we do it in our own interpretation and in our own uniqueness, and because we love it. And it's funny, but I always find myself revisiting this conversation with Steve Jobs, where he told me it's the crazy ones that do change the world. And he says, you're crazy, right? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't do what you love, you will perpetually be entertaining the desire to quit. And I don't care what it is, whatever it is that you're doing, if you don't do what you love, you will eventually tire. And that always hit differently and stayed with me forever, Sandy. And I know how it is. And you'll start thinking things like, what am I, nuts? I just got into this field. There's no way I can go to number 1. Why don't you just stick to your safe
place. Stick to horses, stick to deals in the financial district. Do the stuff that you're comfortable with, that that's the safe play, right? Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. I love how Steve Jobs said that every day he'd look himself in the mirror and he'd ask himself, if today was the last day that I was going to be alive, would I want to do what I'm doing? And if I answered no, I knew I had to change something, and he said, if I answered no for too many days, most people would think if I answer no for too many years,
It's crazy, right?
When I was working in law firms and I announced that I was leaving the law and going into this new career, and I wrote a letter to all my colleagues and all my clients. It was over 2,000 people. And I was so scared to hit send. I was so scared.
You think?
Because my identity was so wrapped up in that. And I remember saying to Bob, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose what I've built up over these years. And he's like, what do you mean you're going to lose something? What do you mean you're going to lose something? He said, you're just going to take all that experience and you're going to put it into something even bigger.
Exactly.
And so I hit send in that letter and I got hundreds, over 800. I think it was 893 replies in 24 hours. Wow. And, I wish I had that courage. I would love to do something like that. But there were 3 that stood in my mind really, really still to this day. And they were very successful lawyers. They were sort of in, the later years of their career. And they said, I would love to do what you're doing, but I'm just going to sit here. I know I'm going to sit here at this desk till the day I die.
Oh, wow.
And I thought,
that's deep, man.
And I was on Larry King. I was lucky to have an interview with Larry King. And we had a great conversation. And I asked him, I said, Larry, you've talked to all kinds of really successful people around the world. And how many do you really think were doing what they really wanted to do? Yeah. And he said, not very many.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, and that's one of my missions, is to get people to do what they really want to do, no matter what the obstacles are. When I was leaving the law, I was so hesitant because I practiced law with my dad in the latter part of my legal career. And then he became a client of mine. And in my head, remember, this is just in my head, not necessarily in his, but in my head, I'm thinking, he's going to be so disappointed if I make this change. How can I let my dad down? And then I didn't even talk to him about it. For 2 years, there was this process of transitioning from law.
But here, it's amazing. Let me cut you off. It's amazing how we fabricate these stories in our mind, right? Our limitations are insane, but go ahead.
No, exactly. It's like we lead our lives for the most part based on what we think people think about us, what we think people think we should do, as opposed to what they really think or feel. And regardless, what's really important is, what do you think? What do you want? What do you want for your life? What lights your heart up? Because the more we're in our heart, the more full our life is going to be. And so, when I announced that I was leaving, I told you that letter I was sending. Well, I sent it to my dad the day before, and that was the first I told him about me leaving the law. And at this point, he's a client. And so it was a very interesting situation for a couple of years. It was a little rocky until my dad and I really had a heart-to-heart, and he finally understood that the reason I didn't talk to him is because he was my mentor.
Right.
He was the one I looked to for advice. I was already battling in my head, should I be doing this? And if I had talked to my dad, oh my gosh, he would have told me all the reasons not to, and I trusted him, and Yeah,
it's those inner dialogues that we have. And here's the thing. As much as we like to say, I got this, half the time we don't. I have my insecurities that creep up from time to time, even on the cruise. I was up every morning at 4 a.m. I got sick, and I was putting needless pressure on myself because I truly wanted to deliver for you guys. So we do this to ourselves, with that needless pressure and entertaining the doubts. It's fascinating, Sandy, and it truly pisses me off at the same time. Like 99% of the things that we all worry about, you realize, never transpire.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
like researching a sickness on WebMD. And you know what happens? After you're done with the article, you're planning for your funeral already. You're buying your tombstone practically. Like, why do we do that? And then you mentioned
Yeah.
another amazing point that's hugely, hugely important for me. And that's we need to start loving ourselves. You know, I wake up every day. I have this ritual. And I say, I love you 10 times in the mirror. No arrogance, no conceit, just simple self-love. And how can you pretend to love anyone or anything else if you don't love yourself? It's not going to happen.
Oh,
It's like the
absolutely.
analogy of being on the plane. You know, in case of an emergency, make sure you put your mask on first. Because guess what? You are useless to anyone else around you if you're not taken care of first. So we need to do us. We need to do the things that we're passionate about, because in the interim of all of us engaging into something amazing and connected with this brain and heart coherence, we benefit ourselves because we're happy. And if we're happy, we make others around us happy. And conversely, if we're miserable, then we just make everyone else around us miserable. And this keeps us in a state of ambivalence and fear and doubt. And even worse, stagnation.
You know, that's interesting. I was just writing about that this morning. And the greatest service we can provide to humanity is to work on ourselves and to elevate our frequency, to elevate our vibration, because it's not the words we say, it's what we do and who we are that impacts people. So when you walk in a room, what are you bringing to that room? And that's why that question, would you like you if you met you? It's not just this question of what's inside your head, but it's this question of literally look at yourself from the standpoint, say you're me and I'm meeting you. Would I like you if I met you? Would you like me if you met me? You know, so it comes from two standpoints. Do you love yourself? Do you feel the love for yourself? But also, what are other people picking up? Because they pick up so much more than our words. It's the whole frequency, the whole vibration that we're in.
Well, now let me interject here because you're touching on another important topic, which is honesty. And here's the caveat. When you answer that question, you have got to be brutally honest with yourself and answer with integrity, because it won't serve you if you just nonchalantly say, yeah, I'm good. I got this. Sound familiar? You know, and what's the point of having these dialogues if you're not going to do it with integrity? You know, it's okay to say, I'm insecure or I'm overweight or I'm a procrastinator. There's no problem or shame in that. The only problem is that most people don't like to have that conversation because it's very uncomfortable. But me personally, I've become very comfortable in the uncomfortable. And I think everyone has to if you want to level up. And I don't even have to tell you, because this is going to be an amazing segue, by the way, into the next question, which has to do with your world of horses, you know, equestrianism, however the hell you pronounce it. It's like a tongue twister, but I completely get it.
But here's the catch. You become uncomfortable. I mean, you become comfortable with the uncomfortable. I love how you said that. And that's right. And you look at it right in the face, but then don't go beat yourself up.
Right.
Do just say, okay, but I understand. I can change anything about myself. It's not a flaw. It's, you maybe call it virus code or bad programming, or, you know, being in the wrong environment, picking up things and doing things that isn't the truth of who you are. And so, you know, if you have, let's just say you have a habit of being late all the time, and you know that it's disrespectful to people and you want to change it.
Drives me nuts.
And so you recognize it, you say this is something I want to change, but you don't then beat yourself up over it. You say, you come up with an affirmation. I'm so happy and grateful that I'm early, and, you know, for everything that I do, and I respect people so much. And that affirmation will cause you to take different action over time, spaced repetition, like you telling yourself, I love myself, I love me. Oh my gosh, the first time Bernie Hillard, he was an acting coach that I was working with, and he had me look in a mirror and say, I love you. And I just about died with the thought that I had to do this. I'm like, this is so uncomfortable. Then you get to the point where you're like, I love you. I really do. You get to the point, I'm going to kiss myself, you know?
Yeah.
But it takes some time.
It does.
So you
really
got to
does.
move through that discomfort.
Yeah, it does. It really, really does. And I got to tell you, Sandy, I've come to the crossroads. where I refuse to live that woulda, shoulda, coulda life. And just like you've been so deeply connected to Bob Proctor and his teachings, I've been doing tons of research on neurological science. And I've been fascinated with the work of Joe Dispenza and his work on neuroscience and neuroplasticity.
Oh, I love his stuff.
Yeah, he's really, really amazing. And what he states, like, it's so brutally simple on paper. Like, I truly want to puke every time I read this back to myself because it's so straightforward. But most of us won't do it,
Yeah.
And essentially what he says is you have to think greater than your environment. And essentially, in order to change your reality, you have to change your personality, which means what? You literally have to become the person that you desire to be and feel like you've already acquired the abundance that you desire. Very similar to the philosophy and teachings of Bob Proctor, right?
Yeah.
And the issue is most people, in my personal opinion, don't have that drive. And I call bullshit on all those people that say they can't change. I'm set in my ways. It's not meant for me. And it's just nonsense because, yes, you can change. All of you can change. All you need to do is just decide to change. And when you make that decision, you commit to it with this unwavering faith on a daily basis. Just stick to it, right? And I've done some epic shit in my life, and so have you. And I've accomplished a lot in 4 different careers, just like yourself. But I've had to work my ass off, just like you, right? And especially in this industry we call entertainment, with the competition is so fierce, the criticisms are high, and you just have to have thick skin and forget about the competition. The only person at the end of the day that we should be competing with is ourselves. And the fact of the matter is, after I'm done on my Zoom calls, if you still want to become a musician, after the picture that I paint of this industry, then you're made for this industry because it is. It's a very dark picture, but it's a picture of reality because it's factual. And it's not an industry for the faint of heart. End of story.
Well, but you talk about most people don't have the drive, and it's because they don't have the why. They haven't fallen in love with something. That's why most people say, come up with a goal and make sure it's something that, is not unreasonable and that you can measure it and, bullshit. You got to come up with a goal that you've fallen in love with. And if you have no clue how you can do it, but you love it, do it. That gives you the drive to change, because otherwise, why bother?
You're listening to the Mojo for Musicians podcast. To learn more about becoming a guest on the show to share your mojo with us, visit mannycabo.com and send us an email in the contact section. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you like what you hear, be sure to give us a positive review on your favorite listening platform. And now, back to the show.
Listen, I know we could talk about this ad nauseum and harp on it all day. I was going to say we just beat this to a dead horse, but I think that would be in bad taste.
Do not talk about dead horses.
Yeah, let's shift into this beautiful world of equestrianism that you live in. And in my opinion, it has such an interesting dimension to who you are, your life, especially given the dramatic power and discrepancy between, horses and humans and your stature. There's such majestic creatures. And I hope you don't mind. Let me put you on the spot now. Like, how many championships have you actually clinched so far?
Well, let's see. Since the first time I showed at the World Championships was in 2019. And since then, I've had 28 world and national titles.
That's gross.
But in the last 2 years alone, because I have horses that my trainers and their team shows too.
Yeah.
So the last 2 years alone, all my horses and myself and my trainers, we've earned 49 world and national titles.
Incredible. That's like Kobe and Michael Jordan standards, man. And,
it's incredible if you had seen a video of me on my first really high-powered horse that could compete at that level. I barely stayed on the horse. And
you think?
the trainers were shocked that I actually bought him. And we went on to get multiple world and national titles. Wow. And but Manny, you know what it's like to go through that stage where it's just way beyond you. And you have to shift your mind to see that you're it. It's not beyond you. You are it. And that is very challenging.
Very.
Very, very challenging.
I mean, listen, for me, I'm 6'2". Like, I tower over you. I could not fathom getting... It's like, seriously, guys, it's like, you watch those Greek mythology movies. It's like a Pegasus minus the wings. These things are massive. It's like 9 feet tall. And then here you are, you're like a little cartoon character you're getting... And you manage them with such grace. Seriously, that's how I see the cartoon.
I just got another new horse, and his name is Lorenzo.
Right.
And I'm so excited about him. But I was in his stall the other day, and he's massive. I stood next to his leg, and he almost came up to my shoulder. His leg. Yeah. Then you have the whole torso, and then crazy. The neck and the head. I mean, but think of the flip side, how magnificent it is to sit on his back and view the world from that place. And then to have all this power, because the American saddlebreds are different than many horses. Like, you guys know what polo is, like you do a match polo.
Of course.
Or racing, where they're all racing together, or dressage, where you're quiet in an arena and one person's in there doing their thing, or the jumpers. Well, these are American saddlebreds, and what they do is perform. And you perform. In my class on Vinny, I competed against 79 people at the World Champions, and we were unanimous world champion of champions.
I was just about to ask you, are you still competing? Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. We just started the new season. But I'm in, they cut it back. So you start out in a division, do another division, and then you make it to the championship all in 1 week, or it's actually probably 10 days. And Vinny and I are in a class of 24 in the champion. They call it the champions of they're pinning the champions of the champions. And we're in there, 24 horses and riders competing at the same time. And your horse is bred to perform. And they've got all this energy, and they don't want to stand still. They want to rack. They want to, muscle up their legs. They want to show. And you have to learn how to channel that. And with Vinny, this last summer when we were crowned champion of champions, it was like a dance. I think you've seen the video. I watch the video often because it was so beautiful. And the thing is, Vinny's performing, and he doesn't know any other horses in that arena. He doesn't see it. It's just him and me,
That's
and
great.
we're out there competing. And so they are massive. They're powerful. And so when I first came up with the goal of being a world champion, and I went to the World Championships the year before I competed in them. And I'm glad I had a year to kind of process what I saw, because the talent, both horse and rider, was just incredible. But that's where the why. I would visualize being in the winner's circle. I visualize the interview when you come out the show ring with your roses. I visualize the victory passes. And that shifted the frequency I was on. And I started attracting the trainers and the horses and the things that I needed to achieve that. And I have a different world now because of it.
I was going to say, in common lay terms, that shit works. Like, visualizing, it really works, man. People, it's not woo-woo. Like, you really have
it
to
is woo-woo. It could be woo-woo. It's woo-woo if you just think that you could sit there and close your eyes and see yourself with your new ribbons or whatever. Yeah. But if you learn how the mind works and you literally visualize it as if it's real, you live in your imagination from that place, then it shifts your frequency. It's the frequency or the vibration that really is the game changer.
Oh, man. I can just see Lorenzo. He's got his, Latin swag. He's got his mustache. No, kidding, of course. But look, my brain is just like a cartoon, right?
He does kind of look like that, actually.
He's like, Sandy, don't worry, Sandy. I will win this competition for you. Don't worry. No, but seriously, all kidding aside, it's like when you're truly looking into their eyes, you could literally see their soul,
Yeah.
And I know you'll definitely appreciate this, because there's one quote that I'm always heard saying, which is, put your blinds on. Insofar as one of my biggest fans, Justin, hey, Justin, if you're listening, had it tattooed on his forearm. It just basically reminding you, just don't look back. Just commit. If you make mistakes, awesome. That means you're learning how not to do things, right? And avoid them the next time around. It's just part of the journey. We need to all accept that. But don't look back. Keep those blinds on. Forget what's on your left. Forget what's on your right. In other words, forget the distractions. Forget the noise. You got to kill the noise and get into what I call is the empty space that I alluded to on the cruise, if you remember. And it's essentially what you're saying, because you need to be completely focused. Let's be realistic here. You do not want to have those beasts land on top of you. Like, you don't want to have anything to do with that scenario. I know I sure as hell wouldn't, because that's a story you may not live to tell. I mean, look at Christopher Reeves. You know, shit happens. And the fact that you could just stay focused in that controlled chaos environment, it truly is mind-boggling, Sandy, and I commend you for that.
Well, but I know you're a big believer in hard work and discipline, and you do things day in, day out. All on Saturday morning or Sunday morning even, I'll go to the barn at 5 a.m. I'll go do the work, and I'll do the visualizing, the mental training. I will do it every single day, multiple times a day. And I might skip some other things that would be fun, going out to dinner with friends, or, you know, watching a movie. I might skip that because I want this so much and I love it so much. But that allows you, when you get into that show mode and you're at the show, you can let go. You've done the work. You can let go. You can tune into your horse and do your job. We just did our first show of the season. We're doing another one next week. The Asheville show is kind of like a mini world championship, and I'm going to be showing 5 horses there, and then my trainers will be showing some. So that's like 10 times of showing in a couple of days. So
I know. I mean, I thought I was busy. You are beyond busy, because I had spoken to Jen and we were diligent trying to schedule your editorial photo shoot. And I can't tell you how beyond excited I am for that, because there's so many layers to you, Sandy Gallagher, that I need to capture, you know, with the tapestry of horses and the ranch. And I visualized, I see what I did there, right? I visualized some amazing concepts for your lookbook, and also these stories. See that? See what I did there again? That's number 2. Is it me, or am I getting cheesy with these? You know what? Who cares? It's my show. I can do whatever I want. But anyway.
That's right.
As we're wrapping up, like, I'm truly interested to know, after all of your varied and beyond impressive accomplishments, I'm going to pose this question, because you mentioned the word why, but I got to tell you, I like the word what just a little bit better, because I feel I can get a little bit more substance out of it. Like, what brings you, Sandy Gallagher, the most joy, and what do you find the most fulfilling? And granted, that's a loaded question, but here's the thing. Most don't know the answer to that question. And in all honesty, if I showed up near your bedside and shook you in the middle of the night and said, Sandy, 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 like, what are you truly joyful about? You should know the answer to that. You know, aside from being freaked out as to why the hell I'm standing next to you in the middle of the night. That's another story, but you get my point, so please indulge us.
Well, you know, I think it's tying everything together, because if I said what, you know, if I answered the question, what brings me most joy, it would be seeing someone light up when I'm talking to them and getting them inspired. It'd be going to the barn and my gigantic horse Texas Pete, he sticks his head out of his stall door, and I walk up and he pushes his head right against my head.
Oh, I can visualize that. That's pretty awesome.
Just sits there and breathes.
Yeah.
Or like, I'll go up to Lorenzo and, you know, stand there. Or Nut Tonic is probably bigger than Lorenzo. And I'll go in his stall. He's so huge, and he puts his head down. I've got this one time picture. It was a selfie, and he's massive, but he's got his head resting on my shoulder, or he puts his nose out to kiss him. You know, it's that connection, and the thing that ties them all together is the spiritual connection. It's the spiritual connection, and helping everyone and everything connect to their higher side. The horses help us more than we help them. I mean, you know, when you can connect with a horse like that, it helps you connect to your spiritual essence. And, you know, we are living in a physical body, having a physical experience, but we are spiritual beings. We are spiritual beings. And so when we tune into that, that's what lights me up. And so, like you said, you lost money during COVID, you lost your father. I mean, it was really tough. We lost Bob coming out of COVID. these difficult things, when you can shift to something like that, to where you're having that spiritual connection, you can bear with anything. I had actually a huge loss last week in the stock market. I won't go into details, but I'm not even going to give you the number because you might throw up. But I literally was able to get over it within the hour, and by shifting. What am I grateful for? You know, how can I connect with? I have several puppy dogs. Several is an understatement, but I love pups, dogs. I love horses. I love nature. You know, you have dogs too?
Do I have a dog? Let me tell you something, Sandy. The more I hang out with certain people, the more I love my Shih Tzu, which is minuscule compared to your beast of companions and those horses, you know. And I use my dog sometimes. I know it's sad to say, but I do. I just pick him up whenever I'm going through a very difficult time, you know.
Yeah, and just hold him, and you're like, oh.
Feel the energy.
Feels so good.
As a matter of fact, I have this right here. And I know those listening can't really see, but when you see this on the video, it's a list of my daily affirmations.
Awesome.
Which I'm going to be offering to my audience. And there's one that always sticks with me. And I picked this up along the way from Louise Hay.
Yeah.
And it reads like this: all is well in my world. Everything is always working out for me and my highest good. And even in difficult and challenging times, amazingly great things come from it. I am safe. And believe me, after this past week of mishaps with my daughter totaling the car, my wife getting COVID, I needed it. You know, it's kind of like a fresh reminder. But here's the thing, and I adamantly swear by this. In life, in my opinion, once again, it's not a blanket statement, and I just believe this wholeheartedly. It's in the contrast that you see the clarity of the things you truly desire. You know, you have to go through those, hardships, screw-ups, that tunnel of nonsense and that maze of what the hell just happened in order for you to be more grateful for the end result, because therein lies the secret of appreciation and gratitude. And I think that point that you were trying to make has salvaged my life. And you, Sandy Gallagher, that is your word. So know that. That's my takeaway from you. It's connection. Yeah. That's where your superpower lies, you know, whether it's connected to the horses or connected to the clients that you've served, connected to yourself or your audiences. That's your word, connection. So thank you for your transparency on that, because I knew I'd get something out of this deal and interview, right? And that's what I'm going to take home from this conversation.
Well, and what you just said, and I hope everyone's okay, your wife and your daughter. But yeah, when you go through that, it's almost like a shock of some of the things that we have to deal with in life. But it flips a switch, and all of a sudden, if you allow it, and you understand that everything just is, it's neither good or bad. If something that seems so bad happens, then something so good is right there with it. And when you shift and focus on that, you can get into an extremely high creative vibration and turn everything around. So I agree with you 1,000%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's how we interpret things, you know? You notice when something terrible happens, what do? We sit there, we ruminate for hours like the situation happened already. It was over like in 10 seconds, but yet we drag it out for like a week, you know? It's incredible how we have that tendency of doing that. But yeah, right. It really is. Really is.
Torture. Self-torture.
Listen, we've come to the winter seasons of this interview, and I told you it would be painless, right? You know, we told a couple of jokes, a few laughs.
It was fun.
And we get to learn about the amazingness that is you, Sandy.
Hey, and we get to have you participate in our virtual seminar coming up in June.
Oh, wow. I would love that. It would be an honor. You kidding me?
Manny Cabo. We're going to do a virtual Science of Getting Rich seminar, June. Go to our website if you're interested in it. proctorgallagher.com. There's also lots of free resources, and you can tune into our social media. We'd love to have you join us. And I know I'm so glad you're going to be there.
Oh, you beat me to the punch. You know, I was going to ask you, what do you want to share? What do you want to advertise? You know, like, how do people find Sandy?
I must have felt the question coming.
Yeah. We're in that frequency, that right
That's
frequency.
That's right.
Listen, Sandy, thank you so much for your time. It truly has been an honor.
This has been awesome.
And I will keep you posted on everything that's going on.
Same.
So please, let's stay in touch here. And eventually, when you win your next championship, which, I mean, it should be pretty soon, I would think, we got to do this again. We got to do your photo shoots.
Yeah, we're going to get that scheduled right away.
And you really need to, because
yes,
you need to make that connection. You see what I did there? That was
very
number 3.
good.
Yes,
very good.
I did it. But seriously, Sandy, thank you so much.
Thank you,
As
Manny.
always, much love and peace. Live to inspire, and continued blessings your way.
You too.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This has been a Mojo for Musicians podcast. If you're a musician, producer, engineer, or any other industry professional wanting to share your mojo and stories of success with our listeners, or just want to share some feedback on today's episode, we'd love to hear from you. So just send us an email at info@mannycabo.com. Thanks for listening.